Well, Mama, I am so excited that you have chosen to do this course with your daughter. She's probably around 9th or 10th grade, or at least heading into those high school years. And whether you've been doing these courses all along or this is your first one, I think God has some incredible things in store for you and for her in your relationship. I want to prepare you that the first couple lessons in this course is talking about suffering. And I want to explain why we're going to spend so much time talking about suffering. You know, one of the reasons that people fall away from their faith is because of the hard things in their story, the hard things that we see all around our world. You've heard people say, and maybe you've even thought it, well, if God was such a loving God, why would he allow these hard things to happen? Why does he allow suffering? Well, I'm not claiming that I know the answer to that, but I do know that the scriptures speak to all kinds of suffering. And often in our Christian culture, we tend to talk about, you follow Jesus, you're going to have an amazing life. And though doing life with Jesus is amazing and better than doing life without him, it doesn't exempt us from hard things. Suffering is all around. And I know you've experienced it. I've experienced it. And one of the things I know about confident girls is that they are able to come to God no matter what their story. We can trust God that regardless of what has happened to us or things that we have done in our stories, that God is big enough to hold it, and God is big enough to use it for his glory. There is so much that you're going to get to talk to your daughter about, and we're going to tease this out over the next 3 lessons. But for this lesson particularly, I want you to be able to share a part of your suffering, the things in your story that maybe you've been holding or tucking away for the right time. Now, your daughter is in her teen years, and what that means is her brain is starting to develop in a different way. She's moving from concrete thinking to more abstract. She's asking big questions, and she might not be telling you, but she's wondering, how does God fit here? Or what about these people? Or, right, at school and in her curriculum and just in her day-to-day interactions with the world, her music, the movies she's watching, there's a lot of big questions that she's asking. And we're wanting to create a safe place for her to be able to talk to you about those things. Now, you don't have to have all the answers, but I want you to work on listening, validating her concerns, and being willing to go there with her and say, let's figure this out together. Let's see what God's word says. And let's figure out who else in our world, in our community, can help us with these questions. They're important. And so at the end of this lesson, you're going to have an opportunity for the both of you to get to share a bit of your own suffering. I've been a counselor for almost 20 years, and I've heard everything under the sun when it comes to suffering. So I know that you have something in your story. And it could be anything from maybe a miscarriage, or maybe your parents went through divorce, or maybe you struggled with a learning disability, or maybe you had anxiety and you haven't been able to talk to your daughter about those things in a way that met her in her own place in development with where she's at. So be honest, be prayerful about how you're going to share that. You don't have to go into full detail, the ins and outs of every part of your story, but give her just enough that she understands that you went through this suffering and you still are walking with God. You went through this suffering, and how did you see God show up in walking with you? You went through this suffering, and where were the people in your life that God brought into your story to hold you up and to help you through? Those are the things I want you to talk about. And then give your daughter a chance to be honest with you about where she sees her suffering and her struggle. Because at the end of the day, all of us have a story. And it's a temptation for us women to compare, to either minimize our stories or to dramatize our stories in a way that says ours is worse than others. And I just want to normalize the fact that we all have something, and that's why we need Jesus. So lean into your daughter this year, but also this particular lesson as you talk to her about what it means to trust God with her story and know that it's a part of God's greater story for her life.